With the revelation of your new hybrid identity as a descendant of both Angelus and Damon, you must learn to live in a new world, uncover the secrets of your family history, and learn to control your magical abilities. Welcome to Otome Gaming. This is a review of Celestia Chain of Fate for the Nintendo Switch. Full disclosure, I did receive a review copy of this game, however all opinions stated are my own. In Celestia Chain of Fate, you play as Aria Silverwings, the middle child and adopted daughter of the Duke and Duchess Silverwings. Aria is a kind, beautiful young woman who is doted and loved on both by her parents and her siblings. Though all the Silverwings' children are adopted and no one in the family is related by blood, it does nothing to diminish the love and care this little family has for each other. The game begins with Aria's 18th birthday where, after a celebratory ball is held, Aria receives an invitation to the Celestial Academy of Magic, delivered to her by a little bunny. At first, Aria thinks this must be some silly little prank by her family, however she soon realizes that magic is quite real and she is a descendant of both Angelus and Damon. In fact, her entire family is made up of Angelus and Damon and knew about magic this entire time. She was very understanding and chill about the fact that they all kept this from her for 18 years. There are 3 love interests in Celestia Chain of Fate. Ash Winterlight, a half-human and half-Angelus, Ash is a prince from the human realm. He comes off stoic and reserved and holds his feelings close. Luke Alistair. A highborn Angelus, Luke is soft-spoken and kind. Though he's on the quieter side, he does not shy away from standing up for what is right and protecting those around him. Val de Lucifer. A highborn Damon, Val is your typical charismatic go-getter. He's athletic and uses his muscles over his brains when trying to solve a problem. So the best way to describe the writing style of Celestia Chain of Fate is that of your typical Wattpad fantasy. And I say this in the nicest way. It doesn't mean that it's bad, but it definitely felt like something I would have read or even written myself when I was a 12 to 14-year-old. Another way to phrase it is that it felt very much like a mobile game in terms of the quality of the story writing, and I did find out that it was in fact a part of a mobile game, so that makes a lot more sense to me now. It also explains why not all plot points are answered by the end of the game, because you're only playing book 1 in this Switch port, something I think a lot of players, including myself, will find frustrating. The way the story is structured, there's no branching routes for the love interests, but rather you play through the entire game while romancing all 3 of them at once. It's an interesting approach, which meant I was able to play through the game pretty quickly for my first route. However, it also meant Aria was basically dating everyone secretly all at the same time. She was kissing all 3 of them back to back at one point in the game, and it honestly gave me whiplash. It made the romance feel really disconnected for me, which was a shame because there was quite a lot of it. The game is rated T for teens, so most of the romance is very sweet and sugary. The game offers a lot of choices very frequently, but there are only 3 canonical good ends, so it's a bit overkill and kinda stressed me out at first. It also made wanting to go back and replay for a different ending unappealing, especially with the linear story not really offering much more to uncover even with different choices. The tone of the game is very lighthearted and fun, with some more serious issues splashed in between. The sprites in the game are cute, with some great facial expressions for our main girl Aria. I did find it amusing how her default contemplative face always made it look like she found everything suspicious, which, honestly, with the pace of everything in the story, she really should have been a little more suspicious. All of the sprites are static, with no mouth movements or eye blinking, and many of the nameless side characters are either faceless, silhouetted, or completely non-existent. The non-existent aspect of brief side characters is pretty common in visual novels and Otome games. But the use of all 3 different versions of the sprites did take me off guard at first. I kinda wish they would have just stuck to one over the other, but that's just me being nitpicky. I also noticed some issues with close-ups of some of the sprites, especially the male leads. They were pretty pixelated and blurry in comparison to other character sprites in game that were perfectly crisp and clear. Hopefully this is something that they can fix later, especially since those are the characters you actually care about seeing up close. One thing that I really enjoyed was the use of special effects. Flames, sparkles, wind movements. There were a lot of special effects used in this game. Way more than I'm used to in high-budget Otome games, which was a nice surprise. I will say though, I ran into some jarring moments where the screen would flash a small version of the background at me. I don't know how else to explain this, and hopefully I catch it on camera and am able to show you what I'm talking about. It's definitely a bug in the game and most commonly would happen at the end of a chapter, but did occasionally jump scare me in the middle of reading. This could just be an issue with the review copy of the game. Hopefully it's fixed by launch. The CGs are very pretty in-game. I especially enjoyed the early game graphics depicting Aria's parents. It gave the moment a nice storybook feel, which was very on theme for how she'd been told the tale as a bedtime story her whole childhood. I'm not really a fan of how the CGs are all clumped together in one gallery rather than separating them out by character. However, with the linear storytelling of the game, it makes sense. The biggest fault in this game's sound design, in my opinion, is the lack of voice acting. While this may not be an issue for some, for me, the voice acting is one of the major appeals of an Otome game. Beyond the lack of voices, the soundtrack is unexpectedly catchy and the use of sound effects is pretty frequent. Other than that, the sound is pretty generic and there isn't a section to listen to any of it. The localization of this game is pretty standard. There are the occasional typos and weird phrasing. For example, the phrase, "music lets us to express our emotions," just needed to be fixed by getting rid of that too. It's not awful, but I definitely had to stop and reread some lines more than once so my brain could catch up with what I was reading. This game is multilingual with an option for English or Chinese. I love when games provide the original language as an option because this is a great tool for language learners. So those practicing their Chinese reading skills might want to grab this one. Celestia Chain of Fate is a lighthearted, easy read with an insane amount of fluff right out of the gate. For those of you looking for a romance game that won't break your brain or your wallet, you might want to check it out. Otome Gaming gives Celestia Chain of Fate a final rating of 2.6 out of 5. Celestia Chain of Fate releases for both Steam and Nintendo Switch on September 12th, and a demo of the game is currently available on Steam. Celestia Chain of Fate has an ESRB rating of T for teen. For more trigger warning details, please see the official ESRB link in the description.